Welcome to Module 7 of the Small Business 101 webinar series. This module is all about your market research of the marketplace and the competitive landscape. Now that you have your financing needs understood, you need to do some additional due diligence to help with fine-tuning your pitch or business plan. This module walks you through some of the major assumptions that might be made and questions that your investors, partners, and other stakeholders might have. With this module, you will know the steps to do your fact checking, which relates to your market research. This is the 7th module of 10 that complete the Small Business 101 webinar series. The Small Business 101 series will get you started with some of the most important information you need to know as a startup entrepreneur. The goal of this module is to have some additional facts to pack you up and ensure that you are ready to enter the marketplace. In the last module, we walked through financing options and how to get access to your startup capital. Now that we have our financing options understood, we need to make sure that our first impression with our potential investors or lenders is great. That means that we need to have more facts to back us up for the questions that they are sure to ask. A lot of business owners think that the opportunity that their business idea is obvious, and they might assume a lot about the marketplace or their competition. But we need to be more positive than a gut feel. We need to have more facts, and this is where the research comes in. A common mistake that an entrepreneur makes at this stage is just assuming things like there is no competition, or that customers will obviously start switching to them, or that changes in the industry or other industries won't have a trickle effect. Let's start in busting any existing assumptions we may have. To do this, we're going to walk through the following: the marketplace. We will cover why this is important, the process and assumptions we might be making, and specifically what we should be researching. Then the competitive landscape. We'll be covering why this is also important, the assumptions here, and how to research our competitors. Let's begin. Let's start with the marketplace. The marketplace is the industry and buying landscape that you are walking into. You need to have a solid understanding of this, as this will impact your pricing, promotional activities, maybe even how you package your product or service. This research will focus on the industry itself and the consumers within that industry. Why is this research important? We need to clearly understand these assumptions. There are two types of market research types: primary and secondary. You need to have completed both. What is primary? It is unique to your business and is information which is new. The research you are doing is described in Module 2 falls into this category. For example, the surveys, questionnaires, and focus group activities that you may undertake. Secondary research, in comparison, is external and generally comes from produced data sources, for example, Stats Canada. Are you sure that this is a good industry that you are in? Are you sure that there aren't future changes that could negatively impact you? We're going to get the blinders off and make sure that you are going into this with your eyes wide open. Here are some of the related questions and assumptions that we're going to want to look at: industry size, target market size, the stability of the market, and if it is ideally growing. The industry is big enough for you. If you are creating a huge manufacturing plant and investing a ton of energy into something, you want to make sure that you can recoup this investment and the industry is big enough for you. But if the industry is in decline or is a niche industry, then this might not be possible. We need to research this. Is the target market big enough for you? You might have selected a single target market, but again, you might need more revenue. Maybe you have selected a target market that isn't a good fit for you. You may need to have two target markets. We need to research this. The marketplace may be good to enter, but there may be some looming changes in the marketplace that may impact you. So we need to research this. In Module 2, we did the business research to determine if there was a need and if people will buy this. But this still needs to be in comparison to the rest of the industry and the competition. This is when you are completing a more in-depth competitive analysis. And finally, we need all of this to test our assumptions around our sales projections. This will help solidify these projections and support their probability. Once you have collected as much secondary research as possible, you turn to primary research. This is research that we have to gather ourselves through focus groups, surveys, interviews, and observation. Some research we might want to figure out here is: what do your prospective target market think about your product or service? We might want to interview or survey consumers within the industry. We might interview industry experts about what they are seeing from consumer behavior. If you need a refresher here, please refer to Module 2. And a critical question to be asking people and judging from all of this research is: what is your projected market share? Can you win some of this? And how? You don't want to be ignoring that at this point, because you want to make sure your return on investment will be reasonable. So grab your marketplace research worksheet to go through how to do this. Secondary research. This is research that is already developed by other organizations that is available just for purposes like this. StatsCan and Environics create research so that you don't have to do it from scratch. Whenever we do research, we always want to start with secondary research first. Why? It is cheaper and we don't have to spend the time and effort in gathering it. So what questions in our secondary research of the marketplace should we be investigating? First, how big is the industry that you are entering? Here, we might want to research any of the following questions. What is the industry's annual revenues in the country, province, or region that you are targeting? What is the growth rate in the industry? Is it growing or shrinking? What is new or changing in the industry that you are entering? Second, we need to verify how big the target market is. Here we might research: how many people are in the geographic location? How many people are similar to the demographics that you are looking for? How many people are doing the behaviors that you are looking for? How many people are valuing what your core offering is? Is any of this information trending or changing in a certain direction? And is there any other information that you need to know about them? This is a very important exercise to do. Make sure you are working through the worksheet. This information will help you support your sales projections and also provide guidance into how you should be marketing. This brings us to the competitive landscape. We need to know about everyone in this space. This is all of the direct competitors, indirect competitors, and even the substitutes. Who is out there and how will that impact us? Ignorance is not bliss here, and you want to have this work done. How else will you be able to compete against your competitors unless you know who is out there? So just like with the marketplace, here we need to continue to bust existing assumptions that we might have and face reality and use facts. Some existing assumptions might be: the idea is novel and new. Once you do some competitive research, you might find out that there is something similar. Maybe it is in Australia or Europe, but there is something to learn from or to be aware of. There is little or no competition. There is always competition. If it is not direct, it could be indirect. If it doesn't appear to be indirect, it could be a substitute. And there are always substitutes, so we need to know about them. Competition won't adapt. They will if they see an opportunity. We often assume that what the competition is doing. A little bit of research will help us actually know what the competition is actually offering. Sometimes we assume that customers will perceive us differently, but will they? And the other assumption is that we can take market share from the competition. There could be others, so be aware. Grab the Competitive Landscape Research Worksheet to walk through this section. Let's dig in now with the secondary research. We might go online or to get a report about the competitive landscape within the industry to find out what the existing competition looks like. We might specifically be looking at simply how many existing businesses are in the industry already, and if there are any large market share holders or industry leaders that we need to be aware of, how loyal the customers are, and maybe even what the new entrant rate or exit rate is in this particular industry, how the competition is coming and going. Another question to research would be the substitutes. Is there another industry that is getting a large share of wallet from your target market? Where else are your customers spending money? For example, if you are a theme park, are people also watching movies instead of coming to the theme park? What are all of the substitutes? What changes are happening in those industries? For example, how is technology impacting them? Any articles or report that you can find is helpful here. You will also want to research any indirect competition. What is indirect competition? Indirect competition is where there is an alternative to your product and or service. A great example would be a fast food restaurant. A taco restaurant is an indirect competition with a pizza restaurant. Both satisfy hunger and provide food, but differently satisfy the need. Now we turn to the primary research. We might do surveys and interviews, but here we may often actually want to observe what is going on. To answer the question of what your competitors are doing, we might actually become their customer to see what it is like, or interview their past customers to have a better understanding. We definitely would want to interview people to see if they actually would perceive us differently. And it is a must to know if there is enough of a difference for your target market to pick your business instead. The primary research here is extremely important. Module 7 was all about small business market research of both the marketplace and the competitive landscape. This is a very important step in getting started in your business. We went through why this is important and how to do it. It is time well spent and will give you better intelligence to support your sales projections and marketing activities. So now you are ready for your competitors. Module 7 is the 7th of 10 modules for the Small Business 101 webinar series. Let's get going.